In the spotlight tonight, another big victory for supporters of same-sex marriage. Today, the state legislature of Vermont overrode the governor's veto of a bill legalizing the unions. And just last Friday, the Iowa Supreme Court struck down a same-sex marriage ban that had been on the books since 1998. So now, 4 states, Vermont, Iowa, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, have given the green light to same-sex marriage. 2 others, New Hampshire and New Jersey, allow civil unions and are each considering bills making marriage legal. The question tonight is the tide turning on the state level in support of gay marriage. And will we see the forces against gay marriage renew their efforts to get a federal law banning gay marriage passed by a Democratic Congress? Joining me now is Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King, a strong opponent of same-sex marriage, and Joe Solomonese, president of the Human Rights Campaign, the nation's largest lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender civil rights group. Now, Joe, Iowa is the latest state to approve gay marriage, but at the end of the day, you have the president, the vice president, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, all saying marriage belongs between a man and a woman. Now, what kind of message is that sending to the rest of the country?
Well, I think the important message really to take from the last week is the message that we got from the heartland state of Iowa, where the Supreme Court made very clear that same-sex couples and their families there face the same life circumstances as all Iowans. We, particularly in situations when we are at our most vulnerable, whether it's around health care decisions or end-of-life decisions or the care and welfare of our children, that we are the same as all families, and we ought to be afforded the same responsibilities and protections that go along with the civil institution of marriage. Not the religious sacrament of marriage, but the civil institution of marriage. And the court made that distinction very clear in its ruling today.
Congressman King, I remember during the whole debate, you had Senator John McCain who was saying, leave it up to the states, no federal ban. A lot of people were saying that, hey, you know, this is not going to spread across the country. Now I'm reading blogs and other columns saying, hey, this is the 4th state, is picking up steam. Is this the time, in your opinion, for a federal law to be introduced to ban same-sex marriage?
Well, we do have the Federal Defense of Marriage Act that is in law, and that says that you don't have to recognize, other states don't have to recognize a marriage within a state that has passed same-sex marriage. But obviously, we have also 29 states that have passed constitutional amendments to protect marriage.
But Congressman, obviously that's recognizing, but the question still comes to that is invalidating or saying no to same-sex marriage. Do you think that that's going to be pushed in the Congress, even though Democrats are in control?
I don't think we have very much chance of passing such legislation today. No, I don't think we'll get it done.
You said no chance?
So the battle goes back to the states. I wouldn't say no chance to anything, because sometimes things happen dramatically in the public arena that compel legislatures to act. And I think something's happened here where I'm standing in Des Moines that compels this legislature to act to defend marriage in Iowa, because we're now a victim of 7 very activist Supreme Court judges.
Joe, go right ahead.
Roland, on the question of the federal marriage amendment, we've taken that fight on in Congress twice, and we've defeated it by increasing margins. There's no appetite either in Congress or with the American people to take this fight on again. On this issue of activist judges, I mean, I think, you know, we all know that there's a tradition in this country of the courts deciding sweeping civil rights issues sometimes before the American people are there. That certainly was the case in the Loving decision that legalized interracial marriage at a time when more than 60% of the American people were not there on that issue. But if you want to look at how this plays out, just look to Massachusetts. When the courts ruled in favor of same-sex marriage there, a plurality of the people of Massachusetts did not support same-sex marriage. 5 years later, more than 60% of the people in Massachusetts support same-sex marriage. Why? Because of the passage of time and the opportunity to live with this institution and to see that, quite frankly, nothing in Massachusetts has changed, particularly not the circumstances or the lives of heterosexual couples in that state.
Congressman, I read a poll where it says 62% of the folks in your state are against same-sex marriage. Do you believe that what Joe just said is going to happen after a period of time, that number will reverse in Iowa?
Well, Joe's talking about Massachusetts and Vermont. I'm standing in Iowa. It's far different here. Iowans are opposed to same-sex marriage, but it's more important that we not allow judge-made law. Whenever we have judges that make the law and insert themselves into the legislative practice, we have conflict and stress across America until such time as the legislature acts. If Joe's going to move his agenda, we need to do it in the legislature, not by the courts.
Congressman, real quick, I got to ask you the question, though. This was the courts ruling the law unconstitutional, and so what more do you want to happen? That's what judges are there for, to rule on laws.
I want to amend the Constitution of the state of Iowa as quickly as we can, and I want this legislature to pass a residency requirement so that we don't proliferate this policy that is judge-made law in the rest of the country. Those two things will be adequate in this state, as the other 29 states have passed constitutional amendments. Iowa needs to do that. Let's allow some federalism here and let the states make this decision. I think Joe's right on Congress. The appetite's not there, not to impose this on the states, but the appetite is there to protect the right of the states to set the policy by their legislatures and not let this judge-made law. If they want to pass laws, they should resign from the bench and run for the legislature.
Joe, real quick, final thought, about 15 seconds.
Well, I think, as you mentioned at the opening of this segment, we are seeing states move in record pace towards marriage equality, whether it is the Vermont legislature that overturned the governor's veto, states like New Hampshire, New Jersey, poised to move in the direction of marriage equality. We're seeing it in key states all across the country, and I think that's a trend that's going to continue.
Joe Salamanese, Congressman Steve King, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Now, folks, tonight we continue our series, Test of Faith. And for some churches in our nation's capital, it means a whole new kind of test as they compete